with Kanye, was he always anti-Semitic? We also know he has bipolar and mental issues. Right. Is this just a manifestation right now? So then are you canceling somebody in the past who didn't even do the thing?
Welcome to Get to the Hook. I am Charles Latibeaudiere, joined by
Eric Colley.
Yes, indeed. We are back for another week of very interesting topics and information, some trivia about the music industry. And this week we're going to be discussing cancellation. Yeah. The word that has been on everyone's mind because of Diddy and what's going on there, the federal investigation into him, into allegations of human and sex trafficking. And a lot of people have been clamoring. If you're on social media at all, you've seen all the memes. You've seen people saying, we got to cancel Diddy. It's time to move on. I'm not so sure. Right. And there are a lot of examples of people some people artists that people think are canceled already, that I don't think they really are. Right. And then the question is, does anybody ever really get canceled? And there might be a couple of...
There's a very few. And I kind of like the idea you wanted to do with this was, if you cancel somebody...
What do you lose?
What do you lose? What does it look like if you go back and basically take this person out of history?
Yeah.
Because it's always... Sometimes it's not usually just that person. It's
you have
everything.
To think it reaches out far, and you could be losing a lot more than you thought, which that's up to everyone. And I got to be honest, like my sister, by the way... I got into a lot of trouble last week, Eric.
We didn't give her shout out.
I know, and I got a very angry phone call. She's like, Where was my shout out? My sister, last week's episode, my sister had suggested we do this. People who have crossed over into other genres.
It's a good idea.
I forgot to shout her out. So thank you, Sharissa.
But now she has no brother because she has disowned you.
Exactly. I've been canceled by her. Yeah. She also mentioned this topic about canceling people who've been canceled. And I resisted it. I said, I don't think it's a great discussion because it's very subjective, right? Everyone is going to have a different feeling about who they want to cancel and why they want to cancel them. And I just felt like, it's too subjective. But then we started talking about it and I thought, let's look at what you'd lose. We're going to leave it at, we're not telling you one way or another, suggesting whether you should cancel them.
This is in no way any endorsement. I mean, we have to look at their accomplishments, and we will also talk about the things that they did that were awful. And when I was making this list, it's like sex trafficking, spousal abuse, pedophilia, murder. Like, there's so many horrible things we're going to get into.
Bad things here.
So this is in no way any endorsement or celebration of these people as, they're okay.
No, we're just giving you the facts, good and bad, and it's up to everyone to decide whether or not they want to cancel.
That's the thing. There's certain artists, some things don't bother you as much. Some things just lines you can't cross.
Right. I actually, as we were talking about it, I thought of this. I'm going to reveal my favorite movie, which is It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah, okay.
And this kind of reminded me of It's a Wonderful Life or A Christmas Carol, where there's an angel who's going to show you what the world would look like if X didn't happen or X did happen. This is what it would look like. And
I think that's interesting too, because as I said, we're going to get into all the things you will lose with people. If you are somebody who's like, yes, cancel Diddy, cancel all these people, what is the line for you? How far do you go? Because if you're only canceling like Diddy as an artist, well, that's kind of a half measure.
Okay, that's definitely
okay. So you're losing, Can't Nobody Hold Me Down and I'll Be Missing You and All About the Benjamins. Okay, that'd be tough.
Right.
But let's play this. This is a little medley here. So with Diddy, this is not the songs he did as an artist. These are songs he produced for other people. These are artists. Maybe he didn't produce the songs, but he signed them to Bad Boy. He discovered them. Basically, their career doesn't exist if he doesn't exist.
Exactly.
So listen to all the songs you would have to give up if you 100% cancel Diddy.
It was all a dream. I used to read Word Up magazine. Salt and pepper and Heavy D up in the limousine.
And here comes a brand new flavor in your ear. Time for new flavor in your ear.
Me and Mariah go back like babies with pacifiers. Old dirt dog, no liar.
When you call me Big Papa,
throw your hands in the air if you's a true player.
That's what we do. just hypnotize me, and I just love your flashy ways.
I'm not giving up Hypnotize.
Nope.
I can't do it.
I'm not going to do it.
And
Not gonna
also,
do it.
I didn't include this, but Diddy is listed, one of his very first major credits. He didn't produce all of the tracks on the album, but he was the executive producer of Mary J. Blige's What's the 411. I'm not giving up Real Love.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's my choice.
Yeah, I just think when you start to think about someone who is as accomplished as Diddy is, it makes you question, all right, like you said, what is the line? First of all, we should say at this point, at the recording of this podcast, Diddy has not been charged with anything. He's not been arrested.
He's maintained his innocence and called it a witch hunt.
He's innocent and has not been convicted of any. Has not been tried or convicted. So,
but we've seen, like you said, there's already the canceled Diddy trend online. Even if he is found completely innocent, if the feds, like, we just don't have the evidence, if he completely skates on all of this, the damage is done.
Right, there are going to be people who want to
the rest of his
believe
life.
the allegations that have been put forward in the civil lawsuits, especially the one brought by Cassie, which has been settled.
And there's no
but people want to believe that, and
I don't disbelieve Cassie. So this is not like that. That's what I was trying to make clear. Like it's hard to do this because it's not like I'm saying, Diddy's fine. He didn't. I don't know. Right.
We don't know, but I agree that there's enough that makes you stop and give it pause, and maybe we, at some point we will reach a point where you can make a definitive choice. I think with Diddy, it's easier at this point to say, all right, let's just wait, because there hasn't been a conviction. He hasn't been found liable in any of these lawsuits. So we can hold off on that. We don't have to worry about a world where we don't have Hypnotize. And I know that Mace really does not want to get to that point where we would have to cancel.
Yeah, Faith Evans, like we're going to get rid of all of that. But somebody. So like you said, Diddy, we don't definitively know anything yet. He's not been convicted of anything. Let's go right to somebody who was of murder. Phil Spector, one of the most legendary, influential producers of all time. In 2003, he shot an actress named Lana Clarkson in the mouth, killed her. He said that it was accidental suicide, that she was kissing the gun. Although there's a driver who said he walked out with the gun, Phil did, and said, I just killed somebody. He died in prison in 2021. And even before that, he was married to Ronnie Spector, and she said that he was incredibly abusive and horrible. She had to flee the house barefoot in the middle of the night to get away from him, like a Tina Turner story. His adopted children said that he was terrible to them, did awful things. Not a good guy.
No. I think everyone agreed on that.
Right. But he's always kind of gotten this pass because listen to the songs that Phil Spector produced. So do we get rid of John Lennon's Imagine?
Ooh.
And also bear in mind,
you
because
could get different versions. The other thing I was just thinking of these.
But would there be other versions of the song if John Lennon hadn't done the original? And also, as we're doing this, It's a Wonderful Life kind of scenario, if you take those songs out, okay, the Righteous Brothers songs, they're Unchained Melody and You've Lost That Love and Feelin', then you're taking Unchained Melody out of the movie Ghost. You've Lost That Love and Feelin' is coming out of Top Gun.
Right.
So all
now
these
you've
movies
lost
that
those
use these
moments
songs,
in movies as well. It gets tough.
It gets tough.
It gets tough to, and look, you can stand on your conviction and say that I think this is a horrible person. I will not do anything that in any way supports him. Okay. The more we listen to this, and we're only two in,
I know.
makes me feel like, I guess what you have to be able to do is separate the art from the artist.
Exactly. And some people have a hard time doing that. For some people, and I thought about this, there's certain artists that, not just that, they did awful things, whatever, but when they die and things, and I realize I don't know the artist. I have no relationship with them whatsoever. The only relationship I ever had was with the music.
Right.
And my relationship with it is
Right.
different than the person who created it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you still have that.
Yeah.
You know, like you're growing up listening to Imagine and Let It Be, the Ramones, Rock and Roll High School, which who knew Phil Spector produced
Right.
that?
You didn't fall in love with those songs because
I didn't love Phil Spector.
Right. You didn't think, God, that must be a great guy. That must be a great guy. He must have done amazing. No, you just said this music was great. I know that's going to feel like a rationalization to some people.
But it's
and maybe it
true,
is,
too.
but I think it's an accurate one.
Right.
So
And and Phil Spector, like the Wall of Sound, his way of layering and that big production he did transformed music.
and influenced a lot of other artists, including Bruce Springsteen.
Right. You take him out of the picture, maybe not so much the actual things he literally worked on, but the things he influenced. I did think it was interesting, and I don't think this was deliberate. He killed Lana Clarkson in February of 2003. In November of that year, Paul McCartney released Let It Be Naked. Do you remember that?
I do remember, and that's what I was going to say. That's what made me think of, look, you could get other versions of these songs
Yeah, it was
that weren't produced the
Right.
same way.
It was
They
the-
wouldn't sound the same.
It was the original mixes stripped of all the Phil Spector production. And it's interesting that it came out 9 months
I didn't realize
after.
that it came out that close.
Yeah,
that close
which means
together.
I don't think it was related to that at all. Paul McCartney never liked those mixes. He thought Phil Spector overproduced it a bit.
Right.
So this was the version he always wanted. But yeah, that was seeing literally if you strip him out of it. And it's one thing I get people have an issue is if you still if you stream or buy music from an artist, you're giving them money, supporting them. Phil
Sure.
Spector is different because he's dead now.
Right.
There's no more supporting him. He's gone. Someone who is not dead and who still needs the money is R. Kelly.
Yes, and actually, we'll get into the R. Kelly universe, but the thing with R. Kelly and maybe this helps people make that money. Actually, a judge had ruled that money will go to pay off some of the restitution which he has not paid.
Right.
So you could argue that actually listening to R. Kelly is helping his victims.
Maybe.
That's one rationalization.
That's a way to look at it.
And then let's get into what the R. Kelly universe touches. But I also argue, even as much as people think he's been canceled, he actually hasn't.
No, he still has millions of listeners on Spotify every month. The week after the Surviving R. Kelly documentary came out, which is when everything really kind of came to a head with this and when he wound up going to prison,
Right.
his greatest hits album charted the week after that. And R. Kelly hadn't been on the charts in a while at that point.
Yeah.
And that's, for some people, it was easy to cancel him because they'd already stopped listening to him. This is one, like I said, and we'll probably keep reiterating this, it comes down to personal choice for everybody. There's certain artists you're okay with, certain things you can hold your nose. R. Kelly is one, and I love R&B. Particularly, I love 90s R&B. I grew up, that was like my era. And R. Kelly was, as
Right
an
in the
artist,
middle of
a
that.
producer, a writer, like he was the king of that era.
Yes.
And it's hard to give up some of it, but partly why I can't listen to him. His very first single in 1992 was a song called "She's Got That Vibe." It wasn't a huge hit. It was kind of a New Jack Swing adjacent
That
R&B
was
song.
him in Public Announcement.
Public Announcement,
Right.
his band that he didn't really need. So I remember when that song came out, and I loved that song because that's just the kind of music I was into. And I hadn't heard it for a really long time. And at some point in the 2000s, I heard that song again.
Right.
And there's a part in the middle where he starts naming all the women that have that vibe. And it's just names. In 92, I didn't think anything of it.
Right.
In the 2000s, I realized he says, "Little Aaliyah, she got that vibe." She would have been 11
I
or 12 when he
knew
made
that.
that song. Yeah. And when I heard that, I was like, I can never listen to this. Because now it's not,
Oh, wow.
like I said, you have your own relationship with the music. But when the person's reminding you of the crimes they committed
Right. When
in
you
the
hear
song,
it in the song, it's hard.
I'm like,
then
I
you
can't, even if I wanted
that
to, I
makes it
couldn't enjoy
impossible to
this.
separate. You can't.
Yeah.
The separation we were talking about, you can't because you hear the reminder right there.
Right. And
that he-
and pulling R. Kelly, as you said, I didn't even do a sound clip of this because something about R. Kelly feels really creepy to me. But the artist that he wrote or produced for or performed with, Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson, Celine Dion, Trisha Yearwood, randomly, country singer, the Isley Brothers, Toni Braxton, Justin Bieber, Diddy, Britney Spears, Nick Cannon, Usher, Whitney Houston. Lady Gaga did a song with him in 2013.
Yes, I remember that. And there was
Do What You Want. In the song "Do What You Want with My Body," I don't want to hear R. Kelly saying that
Right.
because you know what he wants to do with it.
And I think Lady Gaga didn't want
Yeah,
people to
and
hear
then she
that.
tried to say, "Oh, I didn't know," and stripped him off that and like erased him from that version. Celine
Right.
Dion pulled their duet, "I'm Your Angel," but we already knew. That's the thing with R. Kelly that annoys me when people are like, "Oh, well, we didn't know."
No,
Yes, we
We
did.
knew long ago when the first trial happened.
We knew the Aaliyah thing when he married her, but the thing that people always get this timeline mixed up. For a lot of people, the most famous R. Kelly song is the Ignition remix.
Right.
People love that song. That song came out at the end of 2002, blew up in 2003. That is after the P tape came out.
Right.
We knew. But the song was good,
We knew
and
about
we
the
just
tape. So
didn't
even
care.
though he wasn't convicted in that first trial, the tape, actually, we knew it existed. We knew what was on it. And some people chose to look the other way.
Most people. Ignition was one of his biggest hits.
I think R. Kelly is an interesting one because it raises the issue of whether or not someone can actually be canceled in the modern era because we don't rely as much on terrestrial radio airplay.
Right.
And so where R. Kelly has been canceled is on the radio. If you listen to the radio, you're very rarely going to hear anything from R. Kelly. But because people can stream, and you, like, as you mentioned, like that his album went to #1, that wasn't because he was getting a bunch of airplay on the radio. It was because people were streaming it. So since everyone has personal choice, it's really hard to say that someone is canceled.
Well, some people benefit from it. That's becoming more the trend now, I think. Kanye. I mean, yes, he lost a lot of his endorsement deals. He lost a lot of money from all of his anti-Semitic comments. But his Vultures album debuted at #1. His song Carnival went to #1. It was his first #1 hit in over a decade. Kanye's gotten more popular. And we saw that also Morgan Wallen. He got, okay, he had to sit out a couple of award shows for a year. But the week after the Slur video came out, his album, it was already #1. He was already a big star. The numbers went up. Like they had been decreasing a little bit for a couple of weeks, and then they had a spike.
Well, let's face it. I think it raised his profile also with people who were not hardcore country fans. They're like, oh, Morgan Wallen. And you go check out what this guy's, because now people they want to play judge and jury.
Yeah.
And they're like, all right, well, this is the video, and I saw what he said and did on that video. But how's his music? And it's really like people are kind of going,
it's curiosity.
Which is, there's curiosity, and which am I going to give more weight?
But you also see people, like fans, rally around the artist because there's such a fear of cancel culture now. Jason Aldean, when he said that his song "Try That in a Small Town," the video got pulled. He's like, "I've been canceled," and I don't know that he really had. That song had not been doing too much really before that. But then the week after, it shoots to #1 because people are like, "No, you can't cancel him."
There is a thing where the artists know, or their publicists know, that if you come out and say, this is a witch hunt and I'm being canceled.
It's a great career move these days.
It really is.
But with Kanye, I mean, we've all heard all the things he said. And again, that one's more, it's not criminal. Like
it's not criminal.
He didn't beat Kim. There's no allegations of abuse or anything like that. But for a lot of people, it's just hard to listen to him because you can't get out of your head him saying that he loves Hitler.
Right.
But again, and this is, for me, that one's one that offends me. But let's look at the things you have to give up if you give up Kanye.
H to the Izzo, V to the Izzy. For shizzle, my nizzle used to dribble down in VA.
When I move, you move.
Just like that.
When I move, you move.
Just like that.
Hell yeah. Hey, DJ, bring that back.
Marvin Gaye, some Luther Vandross, a little Anita, but definitely set this party alright.
You don't know my name. I swear.
I better find your loving. I better find your heart. I better find your loving. I told you long ago on the road, I got what they waiting for. From nothing, dog.
That's a lot of classic songs.
Yeah, that was Dirty Pool right there, Eric. You hit me right off the top, hit me with Izzo. You can't. What?
Kanye, that was Kanye's one of his first big hit
first
productions.
big hits.
Really
And
put him on the map.
I didn't realize that he had produced that.
Alicia Keys, You Don't Know My Name. He produced that song.
Wow.
Not the whole album, but he did produce that
song.
Are we giving up those songs? John Legend's entire career, basically. Because Kanye, with his good music, is the one who, you could think John Legend would have been who he is.
John Legend would have become, yes, certainly.
But being associated with Kanye in 2004, 5, 6 definitely helped.
Helped him a lot.
Do you give all that up? Or do you appreciate... Also, you could think with Kanye, was he always anti-Semitic? We also know he has bipolar and mental issues. Right. Is this just a manifestation right now? So then are you canceling somebody in the past who didn't even do the thing and wasn't... Let's just get into Michael Jackson. Let's just do it.
Yes, the big one. Because
never found guilty of anything. Never convicted of
guilty. Had a settlement again. Not wasn't found liable in that case, but the allegations are still out there. You still have two accusers, Wade Robson and
James
Safechuck, who are still pursuing a case against him. So it's all out there, and it keeps coming up in documentaries. It comes up in biopics.
It always will. Right.
Right. So you can't escape it. But he is also. This is one of these cases where you have. He's the king of pop, right?
He is.
And
those songs.
That's undisputed. And those songs are what they are. Now, the call for Michael Jackson to be canceled has been going on as long as these
has
allegations
never worked.
have been out.
It's the least successful campaign.
It really is. Like, it's just never. It hasn't taken on the radio. It certainly hasn't taken on streaming.
Sales
and
even.
anytime when there are productions, Michael Jackson's Broadway production, the Cirque du Soleil show, they sell out in huge ways.
Because we love those songs, and because they were so ingrained in our popular culture before the first allegations even came out in the 90s. And this is when also, even if you believe, there are people who definitely believe he was innocent. If you are fully like, yes, he was a pedophile. The earliest allegations, none of them go, everybody who's accused him say it started around like 89, 90, 91.
Right.
So are you okay to listen to the Jackson 5 when Michael was a child himself?
Oh, I'm going to say yes.
Well, this is one, honestly, this is why I can't really judge what other people's comfort levels are, because I know I can't not listen to those songs.
And Michael Jackson's voice and the Jackson 5, their music goes, again, the tentacles go out so far. Again, this is the no Michael Jackson universe.
Yeah, and this is not even, these songs are not Michael's songs, because we all know Billie Jean and Thriller and Don't Stop Till You Get Enough. If you remove Michael, these are songs that sampled his work, songs that covered it, songs that he sang on but were not his songs.
Right.
So these are the songs you'd have to get rid of too.
Get out with OPP. Yeah, you know me. Get out with OPP. Yeah, you know me. And I know love will be right here. Be right here. Just call my name and I'll be there. Beyond the world, beyond the children, I always feel like somebody's watching me. Annie, you okay? You okay? You okay, Annie? Annie, you okay? You okay? You okay, Annie? And throw your hands up in the sky. Your soul for mine, I get to shine. Now throw your hands up in the sky. Mama say, please don't stop the music. Mama say.
Real quick, I got to say, we've been doing this podcast for about 2 months now?
Uh-huh.
That's twice we've used Somebody's Watching Me.
Yeah, I actually,
I never realized what a
it's funny
significant song that is.
It's funny that you brought that up because listening to that, no offense to Rockwell, that's the one I could do without.
Yeah, really?
I'd be all right.
What about Rihanna's Don't Stop the Music? What about OPP, Naughty by Nature?
Again, you went right
Samples,
off the top.
ABC.
You went right for the heart. You're like, nope.
No, SWV,
up
no, I can't do it. And as we said, it's not just their actual recordings. It's the influence and the impact.
Right.
Michael's influence and impact cannot be overstated. This next artist
It will tell you
wants so bad to be Michael Jackson and was on the verge of
and
it.
could have become Michael. And a lot of people felt that Chris Brown was the heir apparent, had everything, had the voice, had the moves, the
He's
charisma
incredibly
on
talented.
stage.
Yeah, whatever you think of him, there's no denying he's incredibly talented.
Right. And then it all got murky after the Rihanna incident.
Yeah,
So
and he's one, I wouldn't say Chris Brown was ever canceled. He's still very popular still. But when you look at the numbers, his career, what his trajectory was the first 3 years of his career, which is like 2005 to the end of 2008, up until the beating in 2009, it's never 100% recovered. Just the stats on the Hot 100 chart, he had 9 top 10 songs in those first 3 years. He's had 8 in the last 15 years.
Yeah.
Which is still good. He's not canceled.
Still good. All right, he's not
but
canceled.
he's still not had as many hits in 15 years, top 10 hits, as he did in the first 3.
I mean, what Chris Brown lost really was crossover mass appeal, right? Because there were enough people who felt strongly, had a visceral reaction to what happened to Rihanna that they were willing to say, "It's it, I can walk away," and also because he wasn't as established an act, didn't have the catalog at that point, so people could say, and a lot of people did, and that's why I think you see his numbers have fallen off. Yeah. But he's still,
there's
but
still
there's still
great
a core.
numbers.
Yes, and in fact, there are a lot of artists that say, "Yeah, I'll take Chris Brown's career."
Absolutely. But it's not to say that he's been canceled or been a failure. Certainly not. He's been very successful since then. But how much bigger could he have been?
Yeah.
Was there a moment where he was going to have that one album that just conquered the world?
Yeah. Would he have had a Thriller album?
And something I want to bring up, you look at the names we looked at, other than Phil Spector, Diddy, R. Kelly, Kanye, Michael Jackson, Chris Brown, they got something in common.
I wonder what that is, Eric. What is it?
And not to excuse any of the crimes they've done.
No.
Crime is crime. But when you see artists who've been famously canceled, it is very often black artists.
Right.
Because Chris Brown, the thing that derailed his career was beating Rihanna. And to be clear, in no way am I excusing that, glossing over that. But there are so many white artists who did the same thing.
Did that exactly, and
half the Beatles.
And by the way, admittedly, we're not talking about, and they didn't necessarily stand trial for something, but there were allegations, accusations, and they admitted to it.
They acknowledged it. And a part of it, I think, with Chris Brown was that we saw the photo. When you saw that picture of Rihanna beaten, somebody that was a beloved pop star herself, it hurt people. John Lennon acknowledged he was a hitter and was violent towards women when he was younger. And then he mellowed out and found peace and love.
Sure.
Ringo Starr, who is the peace and love guy, said in an interview, and he attributes this to alcoholism, and he said that after this, he went to rehab and hasn't had a drink since. So maybe there's the redemption arc there that Chris Brown didn't really ever have that. But Ringo said his wife, Barbara Bach, they both got drunk one night. He got physical. He blacked out and woke up, and she was covered in blood, and people thought she might have died. And he says that was the moment. He's like, then the two of them were just like, I got to go to rehab.
And there's never a moment where anyone has ever even talked about, do we cancel the Beatles?
Never. It would never be a conversation.
No. Which is just, it is interesting.
And I'm not.
I don't know that it's.
I'm not saying it to excuse. what these people did.
The things that.
But you look at the same way with like Bill Cosby, like Woody Allen married his stepdaughter.
Yeah,
or
essentially.
Yeah, Roman Polanski had sex with a 13-year-old. He won a Best Director Oscar after that. If Spike Lee had done that, I don't think he would have ever made a movie again.
Right.
And that's America.
And and maybe that's what that is. It is interesting. There is one white guy who I think kind of was canceled. Gary Glitter.
Oh wow, yeah. This is what he got canceled.
And we said Phil, and also Phil Spector. Yes.
Phil Spector literally shot a woman in the face.
There was a call to cancel Phil Spector. I think at that point his reach was too far.
He was
to really cancel.
Yeah. And his legacy had already been set by that point before any of that happened. Gary Glitter. This is one. I can't say he was canceled entirely because I think people didn't know who he was or what he did. Everybody. If I say Rock and Roll Part 2 by Gary Glitter, most people are like, I've never heard of that.
But
yes,
then
you
when
have.
Play the song.
Yes, you have. If you've ever seen a sporting event ever in your life, you know this song. Most people call it the Hey song.
Right.
Because the only lyric is Hey. It's played at so many sporting events, football, basketball, hockey, everything. Gary Glitter is a monster, like a straight-up monster. He's still alive. He's almost 80 years old. He was much bigger in the UK during the 70s glam rock movement. This didn't all come out until the late 90s. In 97, he was arrested when thousands of images of child pornography were found on his computer. He was arrested. In 2000, he gets out. He leaves the UK and heads to Cuba. Then he goes to Cambodia, then to Thailand, then to Vietnam. He's basically getting kicked out.
Right.
To date, as of right now, he is banned in 19 countries around the world. In Vietnam, he was arrested for committing obscene acts with a 10 and an 11-year-old girl. The 11-year-old was like living at his house. He could have gotten death by firing squad for that in Vietnam. He wound up getting 3 years in prison, got out, got shipped back to the UK, got arrested again. And when I was looking this up, I knew all that general story. He got out on parole last year. Earlier this year, a few months ago, bear in mind the man's almost 80, violated parole because images of kiddie porn were found on his phone. And he's back in jail now. So
Good.
The reason...
Well, leave him there, but...
Yeah, in America, we didn't really know all that. And I said, most people don't know who he is or the name of that song even. But finally, about 10 years ago, the NFL finally said to the teams, stop playing that song. And what really set it off was after the Patriots won, they played that song. The British media found out about it, and they were like, why are you celebrating with this horrific child molester? And finally...
That put everyone on blast. Because I haven't been to a sporting event in any of the major leagues that I've heard that song play it anymore.
In about 10 years. And
Yeah.
part of it was just that, the
And maybe it
song's
was
getting
just-
old. It's just kind of fading.
Song's getting old, but I think you're right. The knowledge of who he was, because people just knew the song. They probably didn't connect the name, even if they had heard what he did.
And it was a much bigger story in the UK. Like, he was never in America.
Right.
We just didn't know and didn't care.
Right.
But what a monster.
Yeah. And guess what? We can do without that song.
We can do without
We
that
got
song.
plenty of. We have Queen. We can play We Are the Champions.
Yeah, we got
don't
all
need
kinds
that.
of other songs. With the whole, again, back to the idea of if you remove somebody, what's the domino effect of that? Two people we got to mention, Chuck Berry and Ike Turner.
Okay, so now we're basically talking about the birth of modern rock and roll.
These are the architects of rock and roll. Chuck Berry is called the father of rock and roll. Maybelline, Sweet Little 16, which that title alone is very problematic.
There you go.
School Day, just so many songs that created rock and roll. Ike Turner, we all know.
Ike Turner claims that, you're right, Chuck Berry is credited as the father. Ike Turner always believed he was the father.
It kind of is. So we're going to play a little bit of a song. Maybe you've heard of this song. Maybe you've heard it. Maybe you don't know. In 1951, 3 years before Elvis even recorded a song, years before Chuck Berry recorded songs, Jackie Brenston and his Delta Cats was the group. Ike Turner was one of the Delta Cats and the main musician. Released a song called Rocket 88, and it is usually considered to be the very first rock and roll song in history.
Dancing straight, just one way. Everybody likes my Rocket 88. Baby, we'll ride and stop.
I mean, you take that out.
Yeah.
Take Chuck
Then
Berry
what
out.
happens?
Do we have rock and roll?
Yes. It still comes up somewhere. I think that's one that you can lose because rock and roll someone would have done it.
But would it have been different?
Maybe. And
Maybe
that
what we
really does
consider those
change.
riffs, like you take all that out and everything just. And then rock is, as a genre, you might be like, well, I'm not a rock fan, I don't care. But then you don't get all these things that shot off
that
from
were
it.
offshoots of it. Exactly.
Even like early hip hop records that sampled rock records.
Yeah.
You don't get Walk This Way by Run DMC. You don't get.
And some
so
people
many
might be
songs.
all right with that.
Oh yeah, but then
Well, yes, there's a lot you lose.
You take the success of Walk This Way out, and then labels maybe don't sign rappers.
Right.
And then you just start seeing this domino effect of things. So,
it's like Madame Butterfly.
yeah. It's music's in the ear of the beholder, I guess, to sort of twist that quote a bit. But it's up to you. What are you comfortable with? How much can you tolerate from somebody? Can you separate, yes, this is a terrible person, but I like this song and I don't care.
And it becomes a slippery slope, whatever you decide, because then someone's always going to hold you to, well, you said on this artist that you wanted to cancel them. Well, why aren't you canceling this artist? And that's not to say that nobody deserves to be canceled.
Yeah, and some of them are literally criminals. Like, people are like, oh, Diddy's, or not even, let's not say Diddy because nothing's happened yet, but like, R. Kelly got canceled. No, he went to prison. That's different. That's the consequences of your actions right there is what that is.
Right. And I always say to people, you brought up Cosby before. Are you not going to watch? And by the way, Cosby Show, I know we're getting off to another
It's
topic
still
here,
relevant.
but Cosby Show reruns still air on TV. There are outlets that air it. So,
and if somebody's like, I can't watch that show anymore because now it doesn't seem funny to me. I totally understand that.
Totally get
the
it.
whole vibe of that show has changed in retrospect.
Yeah.
But you can't change the importance of what it was.
Correct.
And I'm not saying you need
and
to
how
celebrate
it influenced things and changed culture. That exists, and that's the problem with making something disappear. I mean, look, we're talking about if you could make something disappear, you really can't. So even if you personally choose to cancel something or someone, that's your choice, and that's fine, but you can't erase whatever the influence was, regardless of just that artist and that artist's songs. You can't change their influence.
You can't. And as we've seen, like, honestly, if you could, would you?
We're going to leave you with that question.
Yeah.
And everyone can answer for themselves. That's going to do it for us this week. Get to the hook. We will see you next time.